Hi all, it's Brian. Happy Sunday. Today is April 25th, 2021. Yesterday, of course. Here I go with that math. Showing off that very high SAT score. Well, at least the reason that I got an 800 on the entire SAT. No, I got a little. I never reveal my SAT score. I don't think I've ever done that. I wrote it down once on the radio next to Ben. So he was embarrassed to say his. I mean, who would be embarrassed to say 1600? I mean, the guy's a genius. Anyway, so this has been a special weekend, and it comes at a great time because, and I just want to. I'm going to share with you here a couple of remembrances of well, one of my mom and one of my dad. Why? Because today, the 25th, is my father's birthday, and yesterday, Saturday, the 24th, was my mother's birthday. Now, people who know me pretty well know the next thing I'm going to say. They were born in the same year, hours apart. My mom was born in the evening of April 24, 1947, and my father was born in the early morning hours of April 25th, 1947. Not in the same hospital, but both in New York, in different parts of the state of New York. I think my father was on Long Island, and my mother was on Staten Island. And they, even more. And they were both on islands. And it's a sweet thing. And you know, I've known that fact for, I'm 48. I guess I knew it at maybe 8 years old or 10 years old. So for more than 35 years, almost 40 years, I've known that fact. But whenever I say it out loud, I sort of marvel at it because it's sweet. It's sweet first, and then it has you wondering about destiny and fate and all of that, and then my parents did pass 55 days apart. So it's like, oh, right, guys, we get it. I mean, you're life partners, and it's quite beautiful. And it's funny because with today's Sunday being my both mom and dad, today's Sunday, dad, yesterday, mom, they both would be, if their earthly life were being lived today, they'd both be 74 years old. I sometimes wonder about my mom and dad at 74. You know, they should be sitting at, the closures would not have gone over well with Barry and Barbara. Oh, oof. My mom liked to go to OTB, that's true, off-track betting in New York, and she knew nothing about horse racing, but she did know that she liked to gamble. And she also knew that she liked to pick the name of the horse. I'll tell you some story one day if I haven't bored you with it yet during our many years together about the time I won at the Kentucky Derby betting on the horse Charismatic because my mother liked the name. I didn't know the horse was 32-1. Mom. Woo. And my dad would want to go to Home Depot and the closures would have really gotten him down. But they would have done all right together in a room together. A full-blown quarantine? It is what it is, Barbara. Don't say that. It is. I hate it when it is what it is. But, Mom, it is. Oh, now you too? And when a big birthday would come up, like 50, I remember their 50th birthday, that, you know, the 2 days. I don't think it was a weekend. In fact, I recall they were weekdays. But my father, very funny guy. My mother, very funny. My mom and dad were very funny. My father used to joke on, like, my mom's birthday. You know, say, like, yesterday. You know, she'd be 50 and he'd still be, 49 in the example I'm giving you. And at any one of those milestone birthdays, he would, at a point where a lot of people could hear it, I mean, the whole family or something, he'd say, and just drop it in. He'd say, yeah, well, I obviously I married an older woman, and he would, I guess I got my timing a little bit from my dad. And my mother would just kind of do that. Anyway, these are what you're going to hear here. I gotta be quiet now. The first is a remembrance of my mom. I guess maybe the last one that I did on the radio on her birthday, I think 2 years ago, and I talk a little bit about my mom. And yeah, my political philosophy, my philosophy about life, and I think all of our life philosophies bleed over to the political sometimes. You'll hear a little bit about my mom. I explain my nuttiness a little bit. And then a story about my last conversation with my dad. Very, very funny in a moment, and then very, very wonderful. So happy birthday to my parents.
Jennifer has the most beautiful, wonderful parents. I could say your dad.
I do. I'm so lucky.
You really are.
I hit the jackpot.
You hit the jackpot when you were born to Michael Horn and Diana.
Yes. They're both a little weird, but they're my kind of weird, and I love them.
I think they are, and they're wonderful. And,
they are.
And I think that, well, of course, like any loving child, I think I hit the jackpot.
Oh, yeah. It seems that way. The stories you tell, it makes me want to, I wish I could have met your parents.
I had a dream last week, and you did.
I know. You keep teasing me. You haven't told me all the details.
Because I'd cry if I told you, but I will tell you the dream at one point. Today, my mom, my Bobby, Barbara, who went to heaven way too soon. She was only 58 when she went to heaven.
Wow, so early.
And she was so many things in my life. She taught me to love. She taught me to care. She taught me to forgive. She taught me to laugh. If anybody ever people come up to me and say, Brian, are you really that liberal? And I say, well, I say things on the air I mean. And they say, well, where'd that come from? I said, well, if you ever hear me express compassion for people who have shown they don't exactly deserve it or that aren't worthy of it, I got that from my mom because that's who she was. That's the way with which she loved. And it's been 13 years since she went to heaven. Can I
ask you a question?
Yes.
I don't think I've asked you before.
Sure.
Did she die of cancer? Was that?
Oh, no, my mom had.
Your dad had cancer.
My dad had cancer, and 55 days after my mother is when my dad died.
They were just so young.
They were so young. My mom had MS, but the MS did not take my mom's life. She had a series of infections. She got a staph infection in the hospital. She was in there. But I had the privilege of holding her with my dad and kissing her goodbye as she made her journey to heaven. In 13 years since she's been watching over me in heaven, you think a lot about your mom because moments come where you want her with you. Moments come where you want to cry on her shoulder. Moments come when you need somebody just to say it'll be okay. Or as my mom used to say, Brian, don't cry. Sometimes you need that. There's a song by Jimmy Dean. It's called the IOU song. I play it for my mom today on her birthday in heaven, and I play it for moms everywhere, your mom included, Jimmy Dean.
I was cleaning out my wallet the other day, and I ran across a whole bunch of IOUs, some of them 30 years overdue. I know that she'll mark the entire bill paid in full for just one kiss and 4 little words. Mom, I love you.
For my mom on her 72nd birthday today, I know she's celebrating in heaven with my dad. They're having cheesecake, and I think all's well. That's Jimmy Dean, the IOU song, and that's not just for my mom. That's for Diana, for Jen's wonderful mom, and for your mom here, and that's for moms everywhere. So celebrate your mom today. All right?
Well said.
Thanks.
And happy birthday to your mom.
Thank you so much. I said, John, are you telling me my dad has stage 4 cancer? He said, yes. I said, I'll be right there. So I flew to Staten Island, and I spent probably 2 weeks with my dad, for the most part, other family members, but really just me and my dad. And my dad and I had a great relationship. We had very different, if you've heard me talk about my dad, the former New York City police officer, we had different political opinions, and which made it interesting. You know?
And he knew this about you, right?
Oh, yeah. He heard
so
me
you didn't try to hide it?
No, he heard me on the radio.
Right.
He was my biggest fan. He'd listen to every show, and he'd say, how can you believe that? But he loved me, and he called me sport, and he loved me, and he was just so proud. My dad was very proud of any accomplishments that I ever made. And boy, was I proud of the accomplishments that he made. But there was a moment toward the end there in the hospital, because he was passing, that he became very sick. To the nurse, I said, please give my father morphine or something strong, because he's lived such an honorable life that what he doesn't deserve at this point is to be in any pain. He doesn't deserve that. And the morphine kicked in pretty quickly. And as the morphine was kicking in, I was holding my dad's hand, and his eyes got heavy. And I didn't know we were going back to politics under the morphine. But he did. And his eyes got kind of heavy, and he turned to me and he said, "Brian, my son," he called me, my son. He said, "Tell me something." I said, "Dad, anything." I said, "I'll tell you anything. And ask me anything." Because we knew this was
coming close.
We were saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And I said, ask me anything. He said, "How is it?" And he's struggling for the words because the morphine is having an impact. "How is it that a guy like you gets hooked up with a guy like him?"
Uh-oh.
I didn't understand the question. So I asked him to repeat it. I said, "I'm sorry, Dad. How does a guy like you, Brian, get hooked up with a guy like him?" I thought he meant my on-air radio partner at the time. I said, "Do you mean Tim Conway Jr.?" He said, "No, I love Tim." I said, "Who are you talking about? How does a guy like me get hooked up with a guy like him?" "Like who?" And he said, "The former president." I said, "Bill Clinton?"
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah."
We all want better for you, Brian.
"How does a guy like you, my son, get hooked up with a guy like him?"
So funny.
I took my father's hand. I said, "Dad, I'm not hooked up with him." And I said, "But he is a character, huh?" And my dad said, "Oh, boy, is he ever." And then the doctor came to me and said, "Look, this is an emergency situation. We're taking your dad downstairs, and we're going to perform a procedure." And the doctor said to me, and of course I cried when he said, "After this procedure, your dad may not awaken from this procedure. We have to take him right now." So like a scene from a movie, I'm walking next to my father on the gurney, and we're walking very quickly. And I'm holding his hand. And I said, "I'm going to be with you, Dad. I'm going to be with you, Dad. I'm coming with you. They're going now. They're going to help you out downstairs, and they're going to do the very best they can for you." My father was anything. Stupid was not one of them. And the elevator doors open. And I had stopped calling my father Daddy at about 5 years old because boys don't call their father Daddy. Men, teenagers don't call their father Daddy. They call them Dad.
Sure.
Because I felt like Daddy was a term that babies use. The elevator door opens, and there's my father on the gurney. I have his hand, and I said, "Dad, I want you to know that when you wake up from this procedure, whether you know it or not, I'm going to be right there, and I'm going to be holding your hand." And he said, "Thank you, Brian." And he said, "I love you." And without thinking, at 32, I said, "And I love you, Daddy." So I play this song this morning for all who are remembering their father this Father's Day. It's by Rick Springfield. It's a short song, and it's called "My Father's Chair."